There's something that you're very good at, and that you must own, and that's your edge. That must stay in-house, because that's what makes you different, sets you apart.
Now that you've reached the goal of getting a PhD, and you are on this path of fulfilling your potential, what does your day-to-day life look like?
My day-to-day is
So in today's interview, me and Kevin are having a conversation that pretty much tells you everything about his story, how he started, where he ended up, and how he got there, the whole process along the way, and how he is where he is now. I think it's a very interesting story, and hopefully you do too. All right, Kevin, how are you today?
I'm doing fabulous. How about you?
Fabulous. I'm still kicking, no complaints.
Still kicking.
Still alive. Well,
Keep up the good work.
we haven't even started yet. Thank you. So Kevin, I mainly want to make this video so that people who are new to your channel can learn about you and who you are. So who is Kevin?
I am Kevin, and I have a PhD in computer science. I spent the first 30 years of my life pursuing higher education in school, and I think that I have a lot of knowledge in my head, and for what I'm doing right now, it's almost like not really needed, the knowledge. I'm doing real estate right now. I have a PhD in computer science. It's almost 180-degree different, and for what I'm doing right now, I'm really just punching in numbers.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with programming, coming up with software, developing software. I use those software and I have a pretty good sense of using the software. But when it comes to day-to-day punching numbers, maybe at the very most programming Excel formula. That's the extent of my programming in my real estate career right now. And a lot of what I learned really don't apply here. Negotiation with clients, talking to people, that's a lot of what I do. Sales, marketing, it's a lot different than what I did before, which is really talking to a computer, making sense of something that the computer can understand. Now it's more about human psychology. Now it's about hearing, mirroring other people, making sure that I get under the skin of somebody so that I can get that sale.
Not bad, and that's quite an intro. So what made you want to pursue a higher education, specifically computer science?
I've always had this curiosity about how computer works, and it's an art, and it drives me. The curiosity drives me, and I think that it's a great challenge. What best way to really just pursue something that is challenging, interesting, at the same time pays a lot of money.
Yeah.
I came from a tech background. After my PhD in computer science, I was working as a research scientist over at Cisco, the CTO's office. And you get paid a lot. You publish a lot of patents. That's what I wanted to do. That was my passion. Still to this day, I wouldn't mind going back and do that. And so I'm almost like, hey, I can be a hybrid. If this job was taken away from me, the market is not doing so well, and I can't really survive, I can always fall back on that I'm very passionate about.
Not bad. So it was almost like not a backup plan, but like a surefire way for you to achieve the goal you're trying to achieve.
It's not an intentional backup plan that I created. It's just like, hey, I wanted that, and I wanted to pursue that, and I want to get the best out of it. And I think that getting a bachelor's degree is not enough. I want to know more. I want to know more. And then I got more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see learning too. Because I want to learn more.
Yeah.
I don't really see, I guess, college as necessarily the best way to learn, which is not an unpopular opinion in my age group. So, but like I understand that wanting to learn more, however you can get it, and I definitely share that point of view. So nowadays, how do you, on the subject of learning, how do you continue learning today?
So I do want to say this is learning not for the sake of learning. You can learn a lot, but if you don't apply what you learned, it's almost as if you're wasting your time on learning these things. I learn because it helps me. I learn because it improves my personal life, improves my business. I learn because I had to, because that's how I can take my business to the next level. So I wouldn't say learning for the sake of learning, unless you have all the time in the world, all the money in the world, that learning is just a hobby. Yeah, and there's people that do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I like practical learning. I like to really check my results of learning. It's almost like taking an exam, right?
Right.
You verify that you actually learn by getting a certain grade on an exam at the end of the course, so that the professor is sure that you learn the course, you pass the course.
Okay.
Yeah. So you get a fail grade F. That means you haven't learned anything. So the your life experiences are gonna tell you this too. Like, do you actually learn? Okay, so when you put that in a practical real life experience, and that's why I like practical learning so much, because you can immediately apply it, and if you can't apply it, that means that you have not learned. Or if you make a mistake, that means that, hey, you have not learned from this lesson, life lesson. Let's go back, make some more mistakes until you learn and you don't make the same mistakes again.
Would you say that there's any individual person who cultivated that desire for applicable knowledge?
I'm always like a very practical person. And I think that going into a business especially will make you so practical than ever. At the end of the day, things cost money.
Right.
Running a business costs money. There's so many expenses that you have to pay. And if something is not going to give you the return on investment, you just have to can it. You have to close it. No matter what.
Yeah.
It's so practical. It's almost like you can't just throw the money down the drain. You can't just continue to invest without getting that return on your investment. You have such a short runway, right? So I like how that I like that feeling. You're back against the wall, and you have to always grind. You have to always hustle. Work hard, good work ethics, and that's gonna get you somewhere.
So there's not really any one individual person that's pushing you to learn. It's just reality.
I would say, let me say this is my dad. He never ever gotten a Ph.D. He had a master's degree in economics, and he so wished that he had gotten a Ph.D. I just don't know why. And then he was just like, hey, you must go further than me. You must get that PhD for me. You must learn for me. So that's what I did, really, for him, but also for myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess he instilled that curiosity or that pursuit for higher learning in me when I was young, that, hey, do it for my sake. Yeah, do it just because I didn't do it myself. And I want you to achieve the dream that I didn't achieve before.
So what keeps you on that path now that you've reached that goal?
So it's about a paradigm. It's about what's programmed into my subconscious, right? That, hey, this is this thing about never ever relenting on learning is programmed into me. It's hard for myself to deprogram that or take me out of that program. And there's people that don't learn and they're okay with that. And that's just the program that they have in their subconscious, right? So I've been programmed by my dad, and I've been programmed throughout all these years in school to always learn, to always do literature research, background research before I write, a research paper. So it's almost like my duty to do so. And if I don't do a good enough background research work, I'm not a good student. I'm not a good researcher. And then I basically just brought that into what I'm doing right now.
That makes sense. So it's pretty much like you've always been a researcher and a student, and so it doesn't make sense for you to stray from that.
It will have to take a big traumatic event for me to go the other way.
Would it have to be traumatic, or could it be like if you had a kid?
It could be. I don't think maybe having a kid would do it. But even that, how to rear a kid, that in itself is a learning. And I would just pick out a lot of books. I would even ask ChatGPT, AI, to learn how to raise a kid.
Yeah.
AI probably knows a lot more, better, than how to raise a kid.
Yeah.
Knowledge, but they don't have the experience.
Yeah, that's a very important differentiation between knowledge and experience, though, because I feel like a lot of even parents have knowledge on how to parent, but then when they're actually doing it, they don't implement it as well. You see all kinds of parents or people who tell you, oh, you need to punish them this way, but they don't do that with their own kids, or maybe they don't even have kids or have no experience raising kids or being around that. So I think kind of like what we were talking about in another video, it's very important to have that human aspect of seeing what's going on in a situation and then deciding what to do there, because I think all of that information is great, but if you don't have the knowledge or insight on how to implement that information, then it doesn't really matter what you know. What do you think about that?
I think that is so true. That's why I always ask people to follow somebody who's got the experience. I don't care how much you know. All I care about is how many deals have you done, not just in the past, but also now. I want to work with someone who are in the trenches, who are a few more steps ahead of me, so I can really learn from their experience. Knowledge can grow old, can become outdated. It can not apply to the current situation anymore. So there is a distinction between a coach and a mentor. A coach is someone who has a lot of textbook knowledge, right? But how much of that textbook knowledge apply to the present situation?
Right.
That's where a mentor comes in. Mentor has done it, been there, done that, and possibly somebody who has gone through the trenches as of you. So you would rather choose that person. Just think of it as, uprising, NBA player. Would you like to learn from Kobe Bryant, Larry Bird, or would you like to learn from somebody who has got lots of knowledge, or from ChatGPT? You can pick out a lot of knowledge there, but when it comes to tactical, like one-on-one, that experience, you can't get it from ChatGPT, because there's muscle movement actions that you just cannot hand it off to the next person, like knowledge transfer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some things that you have to learn through trial and error. There are some things, I forget where I heard this, and it's not my own quote, but there are some things that can be learned but not taught. What do you think about that?
What do I think about that?
Yeah, like there are some things that you can learn and like you can acquire that knowledge, but you can't pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, hey, don't touch, kiddo, don't touch that fire, right? Mm-hmm. That's knowledge. But until you touch that fire, burn your finger, you probably would not have learn how painful it is to touch that fire, and how damaging fire is, how dangerous it is to touch fire, right? But that's learning something in the hard way.
Yeah. How do you think that ties into like the way that you learn now?
So much experience, and just so much of, I would say, hand combat, just so much time in the trenches, just so that I am so close to the market. Like I know the pulse of the market because I'm so close to it. It's not like, hey, I'm sitting all the way up on my ivory tower, and then just looking down. That's why I think that, that's why I like that show. It's called Undercover Boss so much, is you can be an executive up on management, and you don't know what your workers are going through until you're working with the workers, and then you realize, hey, this is what they need. This is what customer sees. What you see a lot, like all the way up in the ivory tower, right, up in management, is so much different when that conversation or that message has passed up to you. So you want to be with your troops. You want to be there so that you know, and I try my best to be there too, just so that I can experience what they go through. And I feel like that is what differentiates a good business owner from someone who is being just too comfortable, and not listen to the feedback from customers, even from your own employees.
Yeah, it's important to know what's actually going on, and not just what you hope is going on. Because that is something that I've noticed, like with a lot of leaders that I've met and spoken with in my life. As great as they are not always in touch with what is actually happening and what's actually going on. And that seems to be very detrimental to their ability to lead, is not knowing what they're actually leading. So I'm curious now, like now that you've reached the goal of getting a Ph.D. and you are on this path of pursuing, like fulfilling your potential, what does your day-to-day life look like?
My day-to-day is, so I have a journal that I write every single day. And one of the journal entries is what I have learned today. So just because I have a diploma, I don't care if it's a high school diploma or a bachelor's, master's, or PhD diploma, it doesn't matter. Your learning does not stop there.
Right.
What did I learn today? So I have that journal entry, and I make sure that I fill out something that day. So my schedule is very fluid from day to day. I put my clients first, but I make sure that I do that revenue generating activity.
Yeah.
Because that's number one. Everything else you can outsource, you can delegate, you can have somebody else do it. You want to think yourself as somebody. You want to figure out your hourly rate. You're the CEO of your company, and how much is your business worth?
Right.
And that is going to determine your hourly rate. And if you're the CEO or the founder of your company, is proportional to the value of the business. Let's say, hey, it is a 6-figure business, so you're probably worth 6 figures. And then so just figure out how many hours you spent in the business, and divide that by your salary, or in this case, how much business that how much revenue your business is making, bring in, and that's your hourly rate. And so let's say your hourly rate is $100 an hour. Making copies of whatever is $10 an hour. Is it going to be worth your time doing that, or just hire somebody or delegate that task to somebody,
right,
so that you can actually go get that client that is going to pay you $100 plus an hour,
right,
to make your money's worth.
So do you think, let me rewind here. So from what I gather from that, you have your hourly wage that you earn, and anything that costs less than that should be outsourced, right? So if you make 100 and you're doing a task that only costs $99, you should be paying somebody else $99. In theory,
I wouldn't be that precise.
Right.
I would just say, hey, 99, I'll do it.
Right.
But anything that's less than 50, I would just outsource to somebody who is worth $50 an hour and do it, because I'm basically having my rate cut in half.
Right.
Like, hey, if I go to Ryan Yu, right, and then say, hey, instead of charging me X, I want half X, you wouldn't take me on as your client, would you?
No,
you would just say, find somebody else and do it.
Yeah.
Somebody who is going to take you on and then charge half.
Yeah.
Because I'm worth a lot more than that.
Yeah. There's been.
And I know.
I've had a couple people try to pay me with
turn them away.
leads.
Yeah.
Or the
Because
classic.
they're not worth your time.
Yeah. I had one.
Go
dude,
find somebody that's maybe working in the Philippines or virtual assistant, and they're going to charge like way less.
Yeah.
But you don't get the same quality.
Yeah. I had one guy recently who he said that since I would be around people in his sphere, he shouldn't have to pay me as much. And I was like, all right, dude, have a nice day. Because it's not worth it. But
it's not a predictable income.
Yeah.
That's just for the
even if it was, it's not enough.
It's not enough.
You know, like you could be the biggest and best businessman or woman in the world and make more money than anybody else. But you can't necessarily use that as like you're around me, therefore you're making money. Because really that's what you're saying when you say that you're in my sphere.
Yeah, it's hard to put a value on network or referrals. Right. Unless you can get a number out of him, exactly how much is that worth to me? Yeah. Okay. Then, we maybe we can talk. Yeah. But if it's not even a guarantee. Yeah. Like if I'm not guaranteed to get that, because when you talk to referrals, people can say yes or no. Right. They have freedom of choice. Right. What if they say no? Right. Where am I going to get clients from your network? Can you guarantee that for me? If you can, then just pay me for my time's worth. Yeah. That was
when I first started my business. That was. I had another person.
I can live off of that.
Yeah. I had another person who had tried to pay me off of leads. And that was the first question I asked him is like, okay, how many leads could you get me per month? And he said, well, sometimes it could be 4 or 5. And I was like, okay, but that's sometimes, and that's not reliable.
Yeah.
And
I won't guarantee.
Yeah. I was like, do you have like a number that you can promise me? And he said, no, because some months it'll be 0. And it ended up not working out.
Yeah.
But, the reason that I brought up that question of like if you make 100, would you pay somebody or do it yourself for anything less than that? It's because then it goes the other way. So if you make $100 and there's $100,000 task that you don't know how to do, would you pay somebody else for that and like give them a percentage of that? Or how would you go about that?
I would say that there's two ways of doing this. Number one is how do I go there?
Right.
And if I can afford it, maybe I just drop it, because it's not really my core business. I don't have core competency.
Right.
But it's not to say, hey, I won't entertain that later down the road. Because as you acquire more skills, you're gonna get there. Eventually, you're gonna go from $100 an hour to $1,000 an hour, because you're gonna get more clients, you're gonna get more testimonials,
right?
You're gonna get a lot more track record than ever, right? And if you have one successful client after another successful client, people are gonna come to you. A lot more people.
Right.
There's a lot more demand than the supply, so you will have to raise your price that way.
So then I guess what I'm asking, and maybe this is just my selfish desire for knowledge, but I guess what I'm asking is, should the CEO or the owner be earning more than everybody else? What do you think about that?
I think that, let me ask you this. You have people that you pay, right?
Right.
Fixed salary.
Right.
If the company is not making money, do you still pay them?
Well, yeah, because if you don't, then
you won't have employees. They won't work for you, right? How risky is that to you?
Which aspect of it? Paying people?
Paying people without getting that income or revenue for your business.
Well, I see it as like, it's on a scale, right? So on one side, there's no risk at all. On the other side, there's 100% risk.
Yeah.
And depending on where your cash flow is for how you're paying those people, that determines where you are on that scale. So if you have no cash flow, but you still have to pay those people, that fraction shows that you're at like 100% risk, because you're only putting money out. So it's like, the way I see it is that it's a ratio between input and output. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're only giving out, right, I don't know if it would be input or output, but if you're only paying your employees and you're not getting money coming in.
What if I tell you that you can't make money without spending money?
I would question how you can do so ethically. Go ahead.
You can't really make money without investing the money.
Right, unless you're investing your time.
Unless you invest your time.
Okay.
Right? So you're taking on all the risk.
Okay.
And if the business fails, whose fault is that?
Well, that would be my own.
It's your own, right? It's not your employees.
Right.
They check out after five, and if there's still tasks that's remaining, who is going to do those?
Either nobody or myself.
Probably yourself.
Well, yeah, probably myself.
I
saying those are my two.
Drop.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So you're taking on all the risk.
Okay.
Don't you think that you should deserve the high reward? Or do you think that you should be paid as your employees?
That's a good
I don't know.
Yeah, because that's...
If your employee checks out at 5 and you are the one who has to clean up, okay?
I guess that ties back to like leadership and being a good manager or boss.
You gotta feed people, right?
Yeah, because you
gotta bring food to the table. Even when there's no food there.
I guess you could, in theory, just outsource everything and make everybody else do everything else. But then at that point, you're not really a good boss per se. So then that scale of risk ties into like how good of a manager you are, or at least correlates, I think. Maybe not.
Well, I wish I could outsource everything. It's also a balance of resources. Like if I have enough capital, I would just outsource it.
Right.
But then the thing is, you don't own anything.
Right.
There's something that you're very good at, and that you must own, and that's your edge. That is that must stay in-house because that's what makes you different, sets you apart.
So could that thing, and I know we're like way off track here, but I don't mind as long as you don't mind. Could that thing that sets you apart be management or leadership? Like if you're really good at leading a team, could you lead a team of people to produce that much?
Let me ask you this, what happened to Tesla if Elon Musk is not there?
I feel like now he's focusing on SpaceX and Tesla's doing okay.
Okay. He's the face of the company.
Right.
If he tells everybody out in the public that he's not running the company or he's going to just retire from the company, you know what's going to happen to Tesla stock?
It's probably going to drop.
By how much?
I couldn't tell you by how much.
Okay. Significant.
Right.
Okay. He's the face. And somebody is betting on Tesla because of that person. Do you know how much charisma that person has?
So then
The fate of the company is single-handedly determined by the person, that person. Do you believe it or not?
I see what you're saying. I think it's also important to account for the other people who are working for him. So like, it's funny you pick Elon Musk because that makes me think of Twitter. He just hired a new CEO recently. And I don't really pay close attention, so I don't know if that's going good or not. But, you know, maybe that's something that we'll have to see in time. Like, how does that turn out? Because I know when...
What do you think of this comment that he made?
Of what?
That Twitter may fold,
I
may go under.
honestly don't really track it enough to know. When did he say that? Was that before or after he bought it?
Or after he like transitioned, or after you renamed it to X, and then you put like that lady as the CEO of the company.
And he said it was going to fold?
Yeah, may go under.
I mean, again, I don't really know. Not to
He may
just
lose
say
it
that I have
completely.
no idea, or to dodge giving an answer. I'll give you the best answer I can, but just based on what you just told me,
Yes.
to me that looks like somebody who made a bad leadership move. So if he picked a CEO after he bought the company and went out of his way to do all of that and completely rebrand it, and then he says it's going to fold, the way I see it is that he had all the cards dealt to him so that he could make it succeed. So now if it's failing, that's his fault. But again, that's based on what you just told me.
I think he's being realistic about the challenges that he is facing, and just like Tesla in its infancy, initial stage, so much. There's such a high likelihood that the company could go under. He's not. Is Twitter like a public company, or maybe it's going
I'm
private?
not sure.
Yeah.
I thought it was.
So he was just trying to be realistic,
Okay.
and that needs to be factored in. Like that needs to be a scenario, a likely scenario.
Right.
Right. So you look at the worst case scenario, likely case scenario, the best case scenario, and hopefully, right, you hope that the best case scenario will happen.
Right.
But you know, it's very likely too that this company can go under. He just want people to have like that expectation as well.
Mm.
Hey, yeah, as much as I have the Midas touch, yeah, this can fail too. Just with SpaceX, Tesla, it's risky. It's so risky. It's never been done before.
He has, just based on what I've seen,
But those were
his
risky
companies
moves that he
tend to,
made.
yeah, he makes a lot of risky moves with his companies,
Yeah,
just from what I've seen.
yeah.
Like I've seen interviews where he talks about how he had to choose between the two, and then he split it and chose both, and it's like,
Yeah,
you know, that's intense.
very. Hey, so listeners, I hope that this finds a lot of value for you guys. We did get off track, but it's just kind of like what comes to the moment, and it's just that our opinions were expressed in a good way, and sometimes you get to see that this is just behind the scene, really candid opinions and comments that we made. And sometimes there's really no intention for us to be politically correct or just expressing our opinions freely. And I hope that you find that insightful and interesting, and you learn a ton from us as well. And I just hope to see you in the next video and the many videos to come. So make sure you subscribe to our channel so that we can continue providing value to you guys. All right, till next time. Peace out.
Watch it go vroom, vroom. I told her mom that I blow soon, soon.